property permitted.
Oh, yeah. Hasn't been permitted?
The steps were in the permit application.
Are you all set? So I said, let's call the meeting to order, at 6 o'clock on the 21st. And I just, first of all, want to be sure everybody knows and has seen an updated agenda for tonight because we've had some changes. And I do want to apologize to the board and to the public for those, sort of last minute changes. I think we're a little overly ambitious for trying to get some of these things on the agenda. The 2607 item, which is the fiscal year 27 budget, I can say was somewhat out of our hands because we've been waiting for the sort of new chart of accounts basically from our finance guy, Mark Roy, and I think I just saw that come through the email, right?
It came through today. I went in, everything is imported, everything is there, and so now I need to go in and put the new 27 figures in. And then play around with figure it out how I can print the report since it's all a little bit different. And I should have that. I'm gonna work on that tomorrow. probably overly ambitious to get that to you by Friday, but definitely by the beginning of the week. And then have it for a discussion for the next board meeting. So you'll have it well in advance of time.
And if there are other people in the room, like the guy in the back of the room who wants to see a copy early, just holler and we'll send you a copy. Because it won't be posted on the select board packet till before the meeting, but if you want to look at it ahead of time, just ask for a copy. So anyway, that's the situation there. And then on the comprehensive plan process, which Loren, our Island Institute fellow, has been working quite steadily on. She asked that we postpone this until she's gonna meet with the planning board, or at least Aaron, the chairman of the planning board, this week, and she thought it'd be more appropriate to, wait till after that meeting to make a presentation to the select board. She did meet, or she and I met with the new main office of community affairs, and then this week we met with Janice Avignon, who did the comp plan with the town of Long Island. So she's had, some pretty good feedback from those entities about how they've done it. Long Island also used an Island Institute fellow to do their comp plan. So Janice had a lot of good advice. So I think probably I would expect that Loren will have, put this back, but we'll put it back on the agenda for the next meeting and she can present. So there's two things on the agenda. One was sort of how she sees the comp plan process unfolding, and the second one is how the committee that would support the comp plan would be selected and populated. So anyway, the stuff that's in your packet may not represent what ultimately she's gonna come up with. So I apologize though to everybody for, having to yank these at the last minute. But given that, I think like I said, we'll try to make this one of our shortest meetings. So next thing we can do is any public comments for items not on the agenda for discussion but not action. Okay, that's the note. Okay. So Vika, town reports.
All right, hi, everybody. So just a couple of things on the town reports. So as always, we are looking for 2 planning board members. We do need another Board of Appeals member. There is an application in tonight's executive session for somebody that's interested to be, which is great. If the board chooses to appoint that individual, then Board of Appeals will be up to 5 members for the first time in a really long time. So if anyone's interested in being on the planning board, that's definitely a board that could use some assistance. There are additional volunteer opportunities. If anyone's interested, they can come into the town office and talk to the clerks. We can provide you some information with that, on that for anyone that's interested. The next thing is a meeting that took place with CTC and the subcommittee. So the select board, I'm not gonna read the whole entire thing, but basically the select board, after the flex passes were removed by CTC, the select board asked me to communicate with CTC to see if they would be willing to provide 2 parking spaces free of charge in the parking lot. CTC came back and suggested that we meet with the subcommittees. We met, and what their kind of counter proposal, but agreements with the town was that they're willing to provide the 2 spaces free of charge, which is great, but they're just asking that instead of have them be designated, that we work on have a shared Google Doc calendar or some form of calendar. And the way the process would work is the town would go in and put in on the dates and the times that a spot would need to be. And, so let's say we have GEI coming next Friday, we would go in the calendar at least 24 hours in advance and put in that GEI is coming 10 to the 2. That lets CTC know that the town is gonna need that spot available and not give it away. But if they see that there's no one in the calendar, then they're willing to still have the capacity to be able to have somebody pull in and charge them $50. So it still gives them the opportunity to potentially take in revenue, but also still accommodate us to the best way that they're able to. And so I think that this is a great way to kind of meet in the middle and show some collaboration from both organizations. The one thing, if the board is in agreement with this, which I hope you are, I think this is definitely a good step forward. Is that what I would like to do to make it easier? We have had experiences, most recently, we had an experience where somebody that was part of the town let somebody that was coming over for town purposes, is just something that I wasn't involved with, use the parking lot. When the bill came in for CTC, I had no idea that charge should have been on it. So there was some lack of communication within the town. And so what I hope is if we move forward with this, that we would communicate to everyone across the town, all of the different departments, different boards and whatnot, to let them know that if anybody needs to use the parking lot on behalf of the town, that they need to let either myself or the bookkeeper know. Not just let CTC know, and then one of us would be the only two people on the town side to go into that calendar to make that change. So that really keeps it contained. And then make it really strict that if they don't let us know within 24 hours, which majority of things are planned well in advance. This is really to put some accountability on the town and the folks that work within the town. So that way we're not left in the position of people just showing up without us knowing, without CTC knowing, and then expecting that they be reimbursed. And then the town's put in the position where we have to reimburse somebody $50. So.
How are those spots going to be held for us when sometimes they don't even have staff there to do that? Like, is there gonna be some signage? And if they're not gonna be designated spots, how are they gonna hold the spots we need? Who's gonna do that? And what's the process gonna be so no one else parks in there? Because we all know we've had times where we're supposed to be able to park there as a regular member and there've been no parking spaces. I mean, a lot of that's been resolved now, but, so that's my question.
We're gonna do it pretty much the same way we've done it with FlexPass users, where they, what we've done now is we've said, when you pull up, let the attendant know that you are there for the town, you're using the town FlexPass. If no one's there, put something on your dashboard saying township. And so then that way, if there is an attendant not there and they do a walkthrough, they see something that says Township on the dash, they know to verify with us. Matt said that what they will do on their end is make sure that that Google Calendar is shared with the parking attendants. So when the parking attendants come in, they already have a similar concept, I guess, within them and what they do internally. But when the parking attendants come in, they will look at it, so they will see what the process is. And so both CTC and the subcommittee thought that it would be something that would be worth a try to see if it works, seeing as they were willing to provide the spaces for free. So this was kind of a comparable compromise.
Okay, so the plan will be to see how it works, and if we run into issues, we can revisit.
We've had some hiccups, but honestly, a lot of the issues that we've had is more people showing up that we're communicated with. So I'm pretty confident that this could be a good solution. I think for the town, what we would have to do is make sure that, the fire department notifies either Andrew or I, or Public Works, or Animal Control, Harbor Master, whoever on the town behalf is communicating, that they let one of us know, and that we try to be pretty firm that you need to let us know. If you don't, then, make them feel like they might be responsible for that cover, so that we're not being charged with $50 a pop for no good reason.
I'm just gonna say a shout out to the CTC subcommittee with the select board. They heard our concern. They offered a solution that was workable. So I think that this is a very good step forward. And you mentioned in your notes that next we'll be looking at MOUs between the town of Shamik and the CTC. And I think that's a good piece of progress to be looking at that. Thank you.
Any more questions?
No questions.
So I guess I just wanna understand, if we we have two spaces allotted to us 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And we don't have to pay for those. If for some reason we have a third person who needs to come in, then that person would be charged. And then my, so who do we have coming over regularly? I mean, we have the code enforcement officer coming over once a week.
We have the code enforcement officer coming over once a week. We have the assessor coming over once a month. As of tomorrow, the new GP cog AmeriCorps intern is going to start, so chances are he will be coming over once a week. And so the folks that we know are gonna be coming on a regular basis. If the board in support of this and we move forward with this plan with CTC, we'll go ahead and upload all of that information in advance. So we know that for the most part, the code enforcement officer is every Wednesday. So we're gonna go put in, you know, for the next several months that's, so that it helps us and then it helps them. And try to spread the word to the entire municipality and staff and volunteers, so they're very aware that if the parking lot, I mean, it is pretty rare that I'm not aware of who's coming and going through that parking lot for town reasons, but I wanna try to be pretty firm about it so people take it seriously, so they don't think that if they don't let us know that, you know, it's okay, cause I wanna try to make this work as smoothly as possible.
Go ahead.
The sign, whatever it's gonna be, it was flex pass before, but whatever the sign is gonna be in case there is an attendant there. All our prospective town representatives that are coming to park will have copies of those, or how will they?
I talked to Paul today and he asked me a similar question, you know, if I'm coming and there's no parking attendant, how do they know? Because right now I have something that I put in my dash. And so what we'll do is I'll let CTC know that we'll probably just put something that says Town of Shebig with the town logo. And then provide that to the regulars. And then with, for example, with the intern, I communicated with him today and gave him a brief lowdown of where to go and what the process. And then with the people that we know coming ahead, we're also going through the CTC website and generating a barcode for them. It takes 30 seconds to do it. And then sending that to them, so then when they get to the boat, they have the barcode, so we're already communicating a lot of this, the communication is just gonna be slightly different. To try to ensure that there aren't any issues.
So just so I understand, there's a barcode for parking that we.
No, for the tickets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cause in this process, what I'm trying to do on CTC is in full support is eliminate the town of Shebig Island sign-in sheet on the boat. Because so often when people get on there, they'll write on the town one and then we don't know who it is. And so it just creates a lot of unnecessary communication. And so if people are coming to the island for town business and they're communicating through the proper channels, they will have all of the information, parking and a barcode for a sticker for the ride in advance. So then there is no log and no, big bills with the details of breakdown. It'll be a bill with the name of who came in, and what it is. So it should be a lot more streamlined is the goal.
So if people have to come on short notice or didn't, weren't organized, they're on their own. That's kind of the message to.
That's gonna be the message that I would like to express to the town, because I think very rarely is the short notice. I mean, maybe the sheriffs, that's gonna be the only ones, and I think there's in some way an exception to that process anyways. But engineers or attorneys or people coming for meetings, majority of the process and majority of the time, we know days in advance of somebody coming.
So what is the arrangement that the school has?
I'm not familiar with that. That is,
Cause I mean, that's a municipal school department, so it's really similar. And so do we know, cause I understood from the that they still had flex passes, but that maybe isn't the case.
I do not know I know that Aaron was trying to negotiate something with CTC, and so, I've kind of
Yeah.
let the superintendent deal with what he needs to deal with to get the teachers here.
I think how I feel is that this would be a good thing to try through, through the spring, and if we run into any major hiccups, then we can revisit it.
Okay.
It's gonna be more challenging in the summer month, because that's when we have more visitors, but it's also town visitors, but also just more, if I hadn't accompanied some of the people coming to the town, I don't know that they would have been able to get on the boat, and we did have a contractor that we made all the arrangements, and he ended up having to go to, Route 1 and take the next boat, and it messed him up, so I think we'll see how it goes. I think it's worth a try. I do think that I don't view it as they're letting us use the parking for free. I see the picture as we let them charge for the parking lot that we lease from the DOT. It's kind of the reverse. And so I totally believe that because we are the leaser or leasee, whatever you call it, we should be in a position, and I personally would prefer designated spots. And so I think this is worth a try, but we'll see how it goes. Personally, I prefer to have just designated spots, just like they do on the Stone Pier, because then we can tell people exactly where they go, and they can be assured that they'll have a space, to sort of Earhart's point. And then the last thing I'll add is that I think then once, depending on where the board goes on this, I think if we are gonna do this, we should send out a notice to every committee and to every department, and, basically make it 100% clear that anybody coming over town business, this is the process. Because I think people have been operating different ways, and it takes a while to change the culture, so. And sometimes it's the staff over there that might not know, and so if we can, if you can prepare something, run it by CTC, kind of both, maybe have CTC and the town kind of send it out so that it's a joint thing, then I think that would be a good idea, so that everybody's clear. So, David?
So really, two people are gonna be managing this operation. Do you have, any doubts about vacation time and such when there's only one in place?
No,
Good. Thank you.
I think it's worth a try, and I think it's progress.
Yeah.
So, that's how I feel.
And we'll know through the winter what's working and not.
Well, I do think the summer will be the challenge, in
Summer.
my experience.
We know that.
Yeah, but anyway, so do you want a motion from the board, or just sort of?
I don't see that there is a need for a motion. I just, if the board is okay with it in terms,
Yep.
if you are all in agreement with it, I will communicate with Matt about it tomorrow, and then, figure out what the language will be to let the folks know that need to know about this new.
And maybe even post it on the bulletin board on the boat for a while so people can see it, cause I think. I forget who it was, I just showed them how to sign the sheet, so they're probably, next time they come, they'll be like, what? So, and if we, I often am, making arrangements with individuals to come over for a variety of reasons for the town, so. I think it's really gonna be important to week in, and we did have kind of a misunderstanding, with the, energy efficiency work where our GB Cog fellow made a bunch of arrangements unbeknownst to the town, and that did cause some problems. So, and she, meant well, but didn't communicate, and that caused a lot of issues with CTC. So I think it's also gonna be important that we comply. Okay, great.
And then the next thing is, the town Axiom Island Institute meeting. We had met, Island Institute and Axiom and Shabib met to discuss the broadband arrangements. I'm not gonna read what I wrote in the report in hopes that you already read. We've reviewed the agreement, the payment status, and everybody seemed to be on board towards the end of the meeting, and we are now in the process of a meeting at the beginning of February, just to check in. Between now and then, we, the town, sent some updated information to Axiom because they wanted to see a few things in more detail. So that was sent within 24 hours of the meeting. We are expecting another payment to bring us fully current. And then the goal is to meet at the beginning, sometime at the beginning of February, just to check in to make sure that what we said we were going to do between now and the next meeting, that it was all done according to how it was discussed. So.
Okay, any questions from the board? I guess just one question, did Axiom have an explanation for the delay in payment?
You wanna take a stab at this?
Well, I mean, what, if it's not appropriate, don't.
No, they had some questions and they, and expressed some sense of misunderstanding perhaps that they had, which is why they asked for more documents from the town, just to get clarification before they write a check. They just want to be in agreement, so, yeah, that's the short version.
Okay. All right.
One other thing that, I started putting, I don't know if it's helpful or not, but between now and the next meeting, kind of, I've been putting some upcoming meetings in the TA report just to throw some additional dates at you. If that's helpful, great. If not, then I'll stop doing that. Most of these are gonna be on the town website, but any subcommittee meetings, we don't put them on the town website because they're not really for public or for the full select board, so there is no need for us to advertise that. So those are just kind of for the rest of the board's knowledge. And then there are several communications that I put in the packet. One communication that I've received since completed the packet that is important, that I think warrants to be in the TA report, is we received a communication from the sheriff's office, and I connected with them and set up a meeting for next Tuesday. I'm gonna expect a phone call from the sheriff, and what they're letting us know is that, they're planning on hiring several people. They are currently training several people, but the gist of and I can forward this to you too, the gist of the communication is that they're concerned that we might be one of the communities that might be put in the position this summer where they might not be able to fill our contract to the full capacity. So they're, I think, trying to communicate with us well in advance of that happening. The current contract is Memorial Day to Labor Day. I don't know whether the sheriff that we've had has fully retired, whether they're relocating him somewhere else, what the process is, but next week I'm gonna get on a call to get further details on this, and then I will provide a more detailed update in the next report when I have that.
And then in terms of department reports, we had a list of permits issued from the code enforcement officer, but he didn't provide a report, right?
He had a report, but he sent it to me through a Google Docs, and when I opened it, it couldn't open, so it was a technical mess.
Okay.
So he's gonna add the information from, it was a very brief report, it didn't have a lot of detail in it, but what he's gonna do is he's gonna take that information that he intended to share, and then there has been some additional, like he sent out an email for a violation for the Nottebohm property, that the embankment work that got completed, it got completed to a bit above the scope in his opinion from what it should have been. There is also some information that he said has taken place on Hope Island that he would like to let the board be aware of. So he's gonna, I had a lengthy conversation with him today, he's gonna provide a pretty lengthy detailed report about the status of some of those bigger projects and kind of the basics of other things for the next meeting for you.
And then my last question before we leave the TA report is, you had a deadline for the committee reports, I think last week, and have you received them all?
I had received all but two. I did receive one of the two today. And then the other one, I have communicated with the board and they are going to make sure they get it to me between now and next week. So then all of the committee reports are going to be in front of you for a discussion at the
Okay.
next board meeting.
Great.
And I did email you all last week with the link to where I've been putting those in, so they are several pages. I would encourage you to, ahead of time, go into that link and read all the different reports. Unless you wanna read a ton of pages a couple days before the next meeting, that's
And
fine
is
too.
is everybody able to access those if you has everybody tried to find them? Okay, well, you should do that sooner rather than later, because if you have run into a snag, we can help.
So the email that I sent you, if you click on the words that are blue, they're highlighted and it brings you directly to the link. So I really couldn't have made it any easier for you.
Yeah.
But if you do need the steps on how to get into the individual folder, Eliza's been in a couple times and I've showed her and, you know, I'm happy to show that to you as well. But that email that I sent you on Friday has direct links to those folders.
Yep, and I did try to find them though on SharePoint Drive and I couldn't find it. So it's a mystery to me how you go from one place to the other, but anyway, the link worked,
We
so.
might need to recruit Herb again to clean up the select board folder to a better process.
Okay, so I think that's it for 3, which is town reports. We're gonna move on to regular business. As I said earlier, 2603 and 2604 is postponed to a future meeting, so we're gonna move on to 2605, which is to authorize the town administrator to sign the CMP proposal poll application for a poll out on the Bennett's Cove Road. That application is in our packet. And I guess I'll leave it to Vika to give us an explanation about what this is.
You've seen these a couple of times in the last year or two, when there is a need for power to a property and a telephone pole needs to be installed. CMP needs permission from the town to be able to have the ability to do that. The first process is it goes to the code enforcement officer goes and checks it out, makes sure it's okay. He lets us know it's okay, but then it's really the select board authorizing me to sign off on it. The agenda item has the language of what the motion would be. There are no issues with it and it's located on around South Road in Bennett's Cove area.
Yeah, and I
Just new pole or like
A
a
new
new
pole.
pole to replace a pole
These are for new pole installations.
or a new facility or new electrical service or?
Yes.
Okay,
And
Any
so
other-
they communicated, so Paul usually goes and checks it out and verifies it to make sure that everything's kosher and then lets us know and gives us the paperwork that he's been there and he's confirmed that there are no issues.
I'm just curious, a new house or new, just to updated service or? I'm just,
I don't know, I just get these from him and get the okay and
Okay.
that's
just
the
curious.
information that I've received. And this one's a pretty old one too, from several months ago.
Any questions on the application? And I guess, it says city, town, and it says should be down in Portland, so maybe it's because we're in the Portland area. And then I guess in the future, it would be nice to know exactly where it is. And that's maybe something Paul could provide. Oh, it's at your place?
No,
Oh,
I believe pole 10 is, just beyond Chance's Turn. You know, that new property entranceway that's going down, had the big fires back a little while ago.
I don't
That's
think
not
so.
southeast.
This one says it's on Bennett's
You
Cove.
know, it says AKA,
On South Road.
South Road. Pole 10 is just beyond the turn. You
Okay,
notice there's a new pole, and then there's a new pole in the Chocolate Swamp Road.
yep, okay.
10 and 10.01 are opposite each other.
And it is, you're
Not,
right,
that's-
it's 10.01 and 10. 10.01 is what they say is the new pole.
Correct.
On the opposite
Just
side,
below Palmy's old house. that pole that's already there.
Okay, so it could be related to the new
It's the
new
new
construction
property
on the
across the
Nottebohm, on the back of the Nottebohm property would be my guess.
It's the one it's going across the street.
Directly across, and
That one.
that's technically not a road, but I would think it's driveway.
Driveway.
Driveway,
Yeah.
okay. But I guess for future reference, if Paul gets in the loop on these, it would be helpful just to have a Google map with the location. Yeah, and it doesn't have an address, and it surprises me that, you know, I guess they go by poll numbers, so they don't really care, but for us, just so we know what we're doing.
Did
And
you
it does
the-
have a little description on. It doesn't say what page, it does have a description of what, you know, what it's for, it's 21 feet above the public highway, blah, 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 blah. So there is a little description on the third page, so, of what it's for. It sounds like a standard pole, high enough that it's not gonna interfere, it's 220, you know, so. Okay, so can I entertain a motion, and if people are comfortable with this, if not, we can go further, but if people are comfortable, I'd like to get a motion to approve this. So, and as Vika said, it's right in the agenda, so you can just use that.
Yeah, in the past, when I've gotten these, a lot of the times I put it under other business and you approved them.
Yeah.
This time I just had it in advance, and so put it as an agenda.
Okay, so, yes.
So to clarify, this is on Jenks Road?
No, it's on South Road.
But it appears to be the Mega Dayton property.
The closest thing we have to a
Yes.
map is on the third page, South Road, AKA Bennett Cove Road, House 641. That is pole 10, the new pole is going across the street, and then pole 9 is
We need to
shown.
look at this way. I'd like to make a motion
Go ahead.
to 26-005 to authorize the town administrator to sign the CMP proposal pole application for a pole on Bennett's Cove Road.
Anybody want to second that? David? Any discussion about the pole application?
None.
Okay, all in favor? All right. Then, next is 2606,
Thank you, Robin.
to review DEP's advisory opinion of Bennett's Cove. So you might recall several months ago, we decided, at the recommendation of DEI, the engineering firm, to, ask the DEP for an advisory opinion about a specific design that we had voted in favor of pursuing. And the question we had was basically, you know, how does the department view that design? And the answer that came back is that as constructed, these subterranean planks would, in their opinion, be a permanent structure. That's the answer to the question. So they weren't answering the question, can it be permanent or not permanent? They were answering the question of whether or not it was a permanent structure. And we were weighing sort of some less permanent type structures, or maybe what might qualify as a less permanent structure. We were weighing a couple different options. So we felt this was the optimal design, and we wanted to get a definitive answer about whether or not it was permissible, permittable. And that's what the purpose of this was. So I think we got a clear answer to that, in my opinion, that it's not clear what the path forward is. That's up to us. And I think that would really be a conversation with Lisa Vickers from GEI. She did have some suggestions of options that she provided to me anyway, about where we could go from here. So it isn't a no in terms of using Bennett's Cove. It's really just an opinion about the particular design that we asked them to weigh in on, which was option B, if I recall.
Okay, so that's helpful. So then the question we asked was essentially, is this a permanent? What they regard as a permanent solution? That was the question we asked, and not whether they're leaning one way or another toward working with us to install. Correct. Permit.
Correct.
So what would be required? What's the next step?
I think the next step for the board would be to, and Lisa did ask a couple follow-up questions from Rob Wood at the DP, which I don't think she's had a response to yet. So I think once she has answers to those questions, I would recommend that we meet with her and discuss what the options are in terms of structures or other alternatives in terms of, you know, barging at Venice Cove. So this was, we decided to do this for a reason. It was really just to get a direct answer. She was concerned that we might go all the way through the permitting process and find out that we're at a roadblock, and then we've spent all this time and money. So I think she's a permitting, she has a lot of permitting experience, so I think she's a good person to advise us on what our options are.
So
And
you want
they're-
to get to the first, ask the first question,
Right.
basically.
Right, and we were looking at multiple design options, and we had, at some point when Mark was still on the board, I believe, we had voted to select what I remember as option B, which was sort of concrete planks buried under the sand. And because we had already selected that as an option, we wanted to get an opinion from the DEP about about the status of those planks. We had kind of transitioned into a different design in our discussions, but I insisted we circle back and get an answer to that. So I'd say we're kind of in limbo at the moment until we meet with her, but I think that's something we probably should do pretty quickly. She is gonna be here on the 30th,
Yes,
and it could be that we could arrange a short meeting with her while she's here, if she has the time, but.
I was gonna follow up with her probably tomorrow or on Monday, because I know. In conversation before, there was a question raised about, hopefully there's not a lot of snow. So
Right.
they could see the area on South Shore Drive, and with the snow that we got, I don't know if that changes anything for them or not, so I was just gonna follow up. A few days in advance to see if they still plan on coming.
But I do think if not, I think we could schedule a Zoom meeting that could be pretty much, we can do it at a convenient time, particularly for you, Eric, so that, but maybe during the day in this case, so that, she can do it during the workday. So maybe we'll do that. So Vika will be in touch with her. I think the goal would be to meet with her and just talk about where to go from here. I do think right now we have a $3,000 kind of placeholder in the capital budget for Venice Cove. That was for this particular design. My thinking is we keep that there for the time being until we have an alternative. But part of the reason we were, besides just the barging issues, part of the reason was really just trying to understand what kind of costs we might incur as we try to, improve the situation at Venice Cove. Richard?
So they, declared it a permanent structure, so that means it's not permissible, is that?
That wasn't the answer. They declared
I
it
know
permanent
that
structure.
wasn't the answer, but is that what that? implies?
That may imply that, yeah.
Okay,
That
that's fair.
particular design may not be permittable.
So what are our options?
That's what we'll discuss with Lisa. We were already discussing some of the other options that were like less structurally sound, options. And I think there are other options that she had brought up. And we also, I should mention, Dan Bannon has left GEI. There's a new engineer on the project, and it would probably be a good opportunity to get him, on board and get his thoughts on it. Erhard?
Yeah, I think what confused me at the end of it says these provisions suggest constructing other types of permanent subsurface structures such as what we're proposing. In the frontal dune of a coastal sandy system constitute construction of a permanent structure that requires an individual permit. So they're not saying you can't get a permit, they're saying it would require a permit, which is kind of, we already knew that. I mean, that was why the letter was confused
It's
to
the
me.
interpretation of permanent structure, so I would say it's not a definite no, I would agree, so I think. It may be, but I would say I don't feel confident to say this is off the table, and Lisa was trying to get some clarification on that, but that's what happens when you get. An opinion from the Attorney General's office, that's how they do it. This is not the first time I've seen this.
Yeah, it's of course very confusing, so what's your take, optimistic, pessimistic, where?
I think the department was and the Maine Geological Survey and the Army Corps of Engineers who had 2 meetings with us. I think they are trying to work with the town. They understand the importance of that facility. So, I'm optimistic there's a solution there.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's my opinion.
Is Rob Wood, I mean, he's a director, would he be involved in the approval of the permitting process?
No.
Would he he's not the abstain?
Not really, the rules are what dictate the permit. And the rules just changed in June or July of 25. And so he is responding in terms of the new rules. That was the other reason we asked for an opinion, is because the rules just went into effect. He would be involved, he's been involved in the discussions along with the Maine Geological Survey. So part of it is, it's not as straightforward as in engineering design, what constraints do you have to meet? We're talking about a sand dune and what interferes with the presence, action, and maintenance of the sand dune. So that's kind of a dynamic system. It's not a static structure. So that's where the Maine Geological Survey has come into the conversation. I would say that all the parties that met with us were trying to find solutions, so. But I think it was important to get this established sort of going forward so that we kind of know where we're starting from. So I think there's possibilities, and Lisa had some thoughts on it. She directly asked the question Richard just asked and has not yet got the answer. So. And so any other questions or thoughts on this? I think what we will be looking at is setting up a meeting, say in the next, Lisa's had a lot on her plate and has really been very responsive to us. So I think we'll give her a breather, but, trying to get her on board in the next several weeks would be good. I think just a Zoom call might be easiest, unless she's gonna be out here anyway. Does that sound reasonable to you? Yeah. Okay, so, any public questions on that letter? Yeah.
I'll be quick. I have to admit, I was a little disappointed that more of a affirmative answer didn't come back to us, but that's okay. I think remaining optimistic and willing to work with the DEP and hoping that they can work with us in a way that would solidify the system down there without disturbing the natural resources is good. My point and my questions are drainage. I think there's still an ongoing drainage problem down there. And I would encourage the board and the town and the road commissioner to engage one of your civil engineers from GEI, whoever you're working for, to go down there, size up a culvert that I believe could come from that little ponded area straight down to the right side of any where they're loading and unloading right now, according to the survey. I think Paul Demers would probably agree with that. I think there's plenty of room, and I think that should probably be designed. It's an easy design, in my opinion, and I think it could be placed by the time that the frost starts going out of the dirt down there and the rain starts coming and building that pond up again. Because that's what made that area really soft. The town crew did a great job solidifying the area and draining off the water. But then it stopped raining for 3 or 4 months, and that's what helped us out, really. There needs to be a drainage culvert placed down there so it works like the old system used to work.
And so you're talking about, as you're facing the beach, the right side of the road, so that little sump where the water collects, and then keeping the drainage pipe parallel to the road out towards the shore.
Yeah, I'm
instead of
talking about it running underneath
Yeah.
turnaround area.
Yeah.
And going down and emptying onto the shoreline zone. That's gonna take a permit, and that's gonna take oversight from the code officer.
Right.
And then a quick design by an engineer.
And we were headed down that track last year, and I think we will revisit that, and I agree, that is sort of the priority action, because it will minimize the problems down there. Most of the problems we had last year were related to that drainage
Yeah.
problem. And so I think one of the questions that GI was pursuing is it might be post-storm damage repair that might not actually require so much permitting, so
Yeah.
that's, I think that's another thing when we
They did
speak with
confirm
Lisa.
that. So if we were to replace everything in kind, it is just storm damage. They were able to confirm that. The issue with that is we would be draining it. There is the private driveway that would be in the way that we can't do anything with. And so then the question was, can we do it the other way? But then not knowing in which direction this project was going
Right.
kind of made it difficult to determine what the best solution could be, and so this
Yep.
might help
Yeah,
them make a better insight in terms of what the best solution for that could be.
And it's not inconceivable to get an easement over the private driveway for the pipe, I don't think.
right,
So,
and if you had your survey with you and you could confirm that the survey was accurate, then you would know where the pipe.
And that's, yeah, we had several months delay with surveys, yeah, the
But we-
GI has been
I
very,
think we're ready to pounce on that. I agree that's something we should do
Yeah.
now so that we're ready to install it in the spring. And in my opinion, that was the biggest problem last year.
Yeah, I know for a fact that was irritating the carriers.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, and I'm always available to come down, Vika, you know that about me. With anything like that, I'm also extremely interested, so you know, about the discussion with the sheriff's department. Because I was one of the ones with Doug Ross that started, so, I would welcome a quick invitation if appropriate to listen to what Chief Joyce has to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. But thanks for the reminder, because that should jump to the top of the list here.
That was the drainage that we previously were trying to confirm what the survey
yes.
said.
Yeah, and then
We did that.
it's a little complicated. I mean, so I think we're probably ready to move forward. Unfortunately, EI was on board with that before, so, but also for us, we need a budget to make those repairs, and so that's the other part, is like, you know, we don't necessarily have, I don't know, would that come out of Public Works or?
So we, drainage and easement, there is for like the
reserve.
actual work, the engineering work for that would be questionable, so yes, that, and then the work in this area. We really need funds to cover the engineering costs to then proceed with it.
Which is something we're allocating hopefully at town meeting, like that.
But am I correct that that was damaged during the storm?
The culvert?
Yeah.
I think it had big impact, and GI confirmed that based on how it was and the fact that it was full of sand, that we would be able to replace it and have it be storm damage.
But was that a part of the FEMA money that? Does any of that FEMA money cover that?
Not for the culvert, no.
Yes.
That wasn't a FEMA repair site, right?
We got about $21,000 for that area. For FEMA related costs, so that's some of the money that depending on what we do. In the kind of turnaround area, FEMA money could be used towards that if it is in line with what's in the scope of work.
Okay, great. All right, so moving on to 5, other business. Did Vika, do you have any other business you want to bring up?
I think movies.
Anybody else? Other business? I'm sure I'm gonna think of something after we leave, but it pops into my mind, I guess, yeah, I think that's all I can think of for now. How about communications? Anybody, Vika, any communications of importance?
There were a few things in your packet.
Yeah.
Hopefully you got a chance to review them. So the town attorney that we have did move to a different law firm. So as a result, with the way it staggers, we're experiencing in about a year's time 2 different rate increases. So that's one of the communications. The other one is Lorena and Sienna are gonna do, kind of post-storm reflection and experience on the 24th. 22nd, there was a letter from Susan Collins, which they tend to send out this time of year. There is a workshop, working waterfront workshop. I did sign up. I am gonna go to this. If anyone on the board is interested in going to that. So there were a few of those that I put in because I had them at a time.
And I would also add that, there are 2 grant programs coming up that we're hoping to apply for. One is a working waterfront grant, the other one's an infrastructure grant. And we may apply to both for the stone pier. We're not sure yet, but those are both big ticket items if we do apply. And so we did have a meeting with DOT to discuss that. And then there was an online workshop that I think Loren and I attended. But there will be a lot going on that front in the next couple of months, trying to get some additional money for the work at the stone pier.
This working waterfront grant, what was the other one?
It's an infrastructure grant, so it's broader, it's not just waterfront, but I think we will try. And we just submitted an application for, sort of design work, sort of a evaluation and cost estimate for Cousins Island. And that's really to get a number. I'm not sure we're gonna move forward with any kind of project in the near future, but it would be helpful for the capital planning group to have a number for that. And just to understand what we are, dealing with there. Those things are all happening, and so those do take a lot of time. Loren has been super helpful. She got the whole grant application together, and I don't think it would have made it if she hadn't been here, so. Anyway, and could you just give us a little, for the board, the, GP Cog fellow, I can't remember, what's his name again?
Addison Davis.
And so do you have a little background on him?
Oh, God, it's been so long since I've looked
So I
at
think he's
his.
a recent graduate from Bowdoin.
He's a, recent graduate out from the West Coast. Is very, when we interviewed with him, he was really excited about all of our problems, specifically working fire mitigation, effort that Sheboygan Lawn is gonna be working on together. And then he was really, also interested in some of these coastal resiliency projects that we have coming up. So he is gonna come on the 10 o'clock vote tomorrow, if any of you wanna stop into the town office to meet him. Not sure when he's gonna stay, but we're gonna, sit down and kind of go through, what his schedule is gonna look like and secure 1 day a week. I'd like to have him 1 day a week on the island that he's here. It was really helpful when, Ellie did that, so.
And so I think he'll be working with the climate action team on the wildfire project, and coming from the West Coast, it'll be fun to have him on that project. And
Appreciate that.
we've just started sort of down the track on that. And then, we did receive a small grant from the Maine DEP, sort of part of the sand dune grant program for some work at Jenks and Chandler's. And so I'm hoping that he can kind of manage those projects. And so anyway, he seemed pretty excited about that. So I think he's kind of working on, kind of climate team resiliency projects, but we may also drag him into some of these other things. The thing about the GP Cog fellows is they cannot work on grants technically, so they really can't write grants or submit grants. They can help research them. It's sort of a fine line, but that's how it goes. But anyway, we've had great luck, as you know, with, our first fellow was Maya, second one was Ellie, and now Addison. And I will say, I think Maya came at a cost to the town of $3,500. Then Ellie was $5,000 for 40 hours a week for a year, or almost a year. And I think this one is $7,000 for a year. So it's like insanely reasonable. So it's really a no-brainer to get these people on board. And we've been very impressed by the caliber of the fellows that we've had. But given that they're AmeriCorps fellows, they're not getting paid very much. And so, be friendly, be nice, offer, because I think it's,
Give them some good food.
feed them. And they would appreciate that. Okay.
Is he 40 hours a week?
He's 30, whatever it is, 36 hours
36,
a week,
yeah.
but he won't be on island every day. I think the way we did it with Ellie is, less time probably in the winter, and then in the summer, maybe over here more. But one thing we have instituted at the recommendation of GP Cog is that they are out here every, 1 day every week, so that there's always a touch point. Because with our first fellow, it was a little loose. And, a week would go by and we weren't really sure where she was. So I think we've learned that sort of for everybody's benefit, kind of connecting.
Okay, two things. Is part of the project with the climate action team looking at the solution to the wood chips?
That's really,
Is
the
it
climate
moving?
action team through the ETIP program, which Aldrich is sort of championing, is really looking at alternatives for wood burners that potentially could generate electricity, but also, frankly, it was a way to get that evaluated. And so even if we don't go sort of generate power route, I think there's a very good chance we might be looking at something.
Like the air curtain burner.
Something like that, and the Maine Forest Service is very keen on trying to help us with that, and it might be something that we and Long could share. Long has not expressed as much need, but I don't think they recognize that they do have quite a bit of need.
Right.
Right,
And so is that something that Addison would be working on?
potentially, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Second thing is, I'd always be glad to pick them up and deliver them when they're arriving. I know lots of times when Ellie came, she was walking or somebody else was picking her up, but I would be glad to be a chauffeur for Addison.
Yeah, and Ellie actually liked to walk and kind of be on her own, but,
Yes.
and I usually
Not in the
shepherded
winter.
mine around. Well, Ellie was very independent and kind of likes being like that, but I think who knows what Addison will be like, but I just, be welcoming because, they're really they're doing public service for the town.
Right.
It's not just a job. So, anyway. And Vika and I are sort of supervising them jointly, I guess, supervising Addison jointly. All right, so next thing is the approval of the minutes for January 7th, 2025. Do I have a motion for the minutes? David?
Move to accept the minutes of January 7th, 2025.
And a second, Eliza Jane, any discussion about the minutes? All in favor? All right, we're shooting for a 1-hour meeting. So items for a future agenda. Oh, yeah, we got an executive session, I forgot. Well, we'll still make it fast.
Good.
So any items for a future agenda, since I did such a stellar job with this agenda? But I think if you do have some, you can email Vika and or myself, and we usually try to spend, put the agenda to start a week ahead of time at least. Probably more than that, so, and I am sort of starting to look back at the list of things that we do need to tackle, and there are some that we sort of are on the back burner, but we should probably revisit, and we're kind of in budget season, so we'll see how that unfolds, but a couple things that I'm concerned about is we've had this long outstanding need to approve these zoning maps because we changed our FEMA maps. It changes the resource protection zone. It's now 1.5 years outstanding, and it will be 2 years come June. And so I really we're going to meet with the planning board. I want to, get that back online as soon as possible, because in order to bring it to town meeting in June, we really have to have a plan starting pretty quickly. So it takes a long time to go through the process of a public hearing and then, to bring it to town meeting.
Carol, is the lead on that the select board
It's the planning
responsibility or the
board,
planning?
it's the planning,
Okay,
but the select board is responsible for the planning board, so to some extent in their work plan, so that's. And Paul has been trying to work with them on that issue. But I'm getting very concerned about the significant delay.
it is meaningful.
Yeah. All right, so now I think we need a motion to move into executive session.
But can I just ask, what's the status of the 2 parking areas at the top of the hook and down on James Road? Are we just waiting?
We're waiting on GEI to be able to redesign it based on all of the hiccups that Hook Road has continued to experience. The last time we narrowed it down to 3 parking spaces.
Right.
And so they have to update that plan and design it. We intentionally told them to delay the Jenks Road, so then they come to us at the same time, because it just, both of them needed to go to, I believe now they will both need to go to Board of Appeals, not the planning board.
It's been a,
So, and trying to get them, the goal is still to try to get them both to Board of Appeals so they can be constructed before Memorial Day.
Memorial.
Okay,
This is my 3rd Memorial Day hoping for this.
And I will say, we told GEI to prioritize the Stone Wharf and the South Shore Drive over that, we kind of said, stop on that, get on this. And so it's kind of on their back burner, but we will reactivate that. The next sort of short-term deadline we have is trying to get some kind of a design that will qualify us for one of these grant programs, which, you know, the grant application is coming up in a month or so, or not even a
Stone
few
Pier.
weeks on the Stone Pier. So that is our highest priority. They have a new engineer on board and he seems to have really integrated into the project pretty quickly, but our highest priority as a town, I believe, is to try to get prepared for that. First of all, the Stone Pier needs to happen, but also this is it's up to a $2 million grant program, so I think we should try to access it. And it's gonna require a fair amount of work on their part. So there'll be another meeting with them about the Stone Pier, you know, likely early in February. I think that was the plan.
Okay, thank you.
So they're not far from
No,
with others.
but there's always these little details that, you know, and how much we need to have nailed down to submit an application is, I think I feel like we'll probably be okay. But,
GEI has, so right now GEI has Stone Wharf, Bennett's Cove, South Shore Drive, Bennett's Cove Culvert. What else? I feel like there's
South,
something else.
South Road,
And then they're gonna pick up South Road,
Thank you.
East Shore Drive. Hopefully they'll pick these up. There is a culvert replacement that will need to be done by Central Landing when we get to the storm damage repair there. There's storm damage repair work that will need to be done by Hamilton Beach, Waldo Point Road. So we're gonna be keeping them busy, but we're also not their only client.
right, so. And I will say that they helped us prepare this last grant that we kind of decided late in the game to submit, and I give them a lot of credit because they didn't charge us, they just helped us prepare the budget and the scope. They looked at it, they had a couple other clients doing the same thing, and it was all kind of last minute rush, but they did a really nice job. And I can't say enough about Lisa, who has been incredibly responsive, and I really am pleased. Compared to some of the other firms we've worked with, it's very different. And I think she is really trying to support the town of Shabig and the company itself. So I think we have a good relationship and it's gonna, you know, I think we need to take advantage of that and try to get some of these projects going. And my personal goal, like Vika wants to get those parking things, I wanna see something happen on the Stone Pier in my lifetime, like in the next year. And so maybe by, you know,
Town meeting will
yeah,
be asking for funds for Stone Pier, South Shore Drive.
and that would be great. It will be a good feeling. So, all right, so next thing is executive session, we need a motion. If you're okay, Eliza, are you done with your question?
Yes, I'll be done.
Okay, no, just ask.
But when you say Stone Pier, Warp Road as well.
Well, it's not clear which one we're gonna do, but yeah.
Thank you. Stetson. Okay,
Thank
I'm
you,
ready.
Motion.
Read it right there.
Well,
That one,
had another one? Okay,
Oh, okay.
move that we move into executive session
Pursuant to,
pursuant to 1.m.RSA 6A personnel.
excellent.
Second.
Second from David, all in favor?